Story 1. It depends on whether they are directed towards fields that do not require a full college education and if companies realize that college education is not necessary for everything. If anything, there is a college degree bubble right now. Many jobs do not require a college education to perform well, but companies ask for bachelor's level or higher degrees. Story 2. Probably means more men in trades, technology, or skipping the debt trap altogether. College is not the only path, but if the gap keeps growing, it might shift dating, jobs, and who ends up running things long-term. Story 3. If young men do not feel college is worth it anymore, the problem is not with them. It is with what college has become. Story 4. A society with an excess of young, uneducated, underemployed, and single men tends to be violent and unstable. Story 5. Honestly, as a high school teacher and guidance counselor, the post-secondary education system must be overhauled if it has any chance of remaining relevant. 1. Students are already barely learning. Artificial intelligence is taking over their thinking for them, and many see education as a means to an end, such as obtaining a job. Many are realizing that degrees leading to jobs are already oversaturated, including business, engineering, and computer science. Also, the last thing we need are more Master of Business Administration graduates running around. 2. Most university professors are ineffective teachers. It is surprising that we accepted a post-secondary education system where teachers are not trained to teach. They are researchers who are forced to teach, and many of them dislike teaching, which is why they put so little effort into it. In my post-secondary experience, 3 of the worst professors I had were in my education training program. These teachers were some of the most incompetent I have ever encountered, yet they were responsible for training me to be a better teacher. Regardless of their research capability, they should not be employed as teachers. 3. Post-secondary education must put greater emphasis on trades and technical schools. There should be more focus on 2-year degrees, and people should not be devalued for choosing colleges or diplomas over 4-year degrees. 4. University rankings are misleading and insignificant. They should stop being recognized or given any attention. Honestly, I hope more men stop attending university. Maybe it will motivate universities to improve. The only way they will change is if it starts affecting their finances. I hope these men continue pursuing ways to upgrade their skills, but it does not have to be through university. Story 6. Women typically do not want men who are less educated or earn less than they do, which university degrees often indicate. If the dating market and population are not balanced now, the situation will be even worse in the future. Story 7. We should look at men who actually obtain a degree and compare them to prior statistics first. It could be that the men who were not going to get a degree anyway are not even trying in the first place. Story 8. We should have vocational high school programs where people can attend for a set number of years and graduate with the certifications and internships needed to enter the workforce. Not everyone needs to take Algebra 2 and chemistry or analyze the symbolism in Shakespeare. Story 9. It is just continuing a long trend. What actually worries universities is not the decrease in men, but that when the sex ratio, women have been the majority since the 1980s in the United States, reaches a certain point, women stop enrolling as much. Story 10. If it results in overall less educated people, the outlook looks bleak to me. The world needs critical thinking skills and an educated, media-literate population. You might say corporations want the opposite if you are cynically inclined. Story 11. University admissions offices are going to get caught engaging in pro-male affirmative action, and it will be a significant scandal. Story 12. This question has a major connection to the artificial intelligence discussion and the debate about degrees with little value. If artificial intelligence is going to eliminate many white-collar jobs, the importance of those degrees will decrease significantly. The real opportunities are in engineering and healthcare. This is where I am encouraging my children to focus. Story 13. I am more concerned about the encroaching mediocrity that dilutes the value that institutes of higher learning provide. I could not care less about the breakdown of the student body based on sex. What is the knowledge that the increasing number of women graduates actually worth? Hopefully, those men are opting into trades and making meaningful decisions that grant them skills and resources. I choose not to consider how many of those dropouts are condemned to menial work or welfare. Story 14. On one hand, the internet could make it irrelevant. If you are able to read this, you have access to more knowledge than most college students could have imagined before the advent of the internet. We could theoretically be an entire civilization of self-taught Renaissance men and women. On the other hand, we all know how the internet really works. It is a race to the bottom. Everyone just remember to stock up on Brondo. It has what plants crave. Story 15. If they choose trade school instead, more women will enter white-collar fields, while men will continue dominating blue-collar fields. Eventually, artificial intelligence may displace white-collar work disproportionately more than blue-collar work. Story 16. The biggest issue is the mismatch between women and men. Straight women tend to prefer dating men who are as educated as they are or more educated. If women are more educated than men, this creates some obvious issues. Male underrepresentation in industries like nursing and education will probably worsen, while the underrepresentation of women in many science, technology, engineering, and mathematics fields would improve. Story 17. Universities will be full of even more feminists expressing the view that the world does not need men and that we would be better off without them. At the same time, they often do not know how to fix their own car or anything in their house. Story 18. There is a strong correlation between the number of uneducated men and the number of votes for far-right-wing or fascist candidates. How that might affect our future, I will leave to your imagination. Story 19. I think the men who are going to university are enrolled in the courses that count. Many of us have realized that a lot of the easy degrees are not worth 4 years of debt. Story 20. In my opinion, not as much as people think, because most degrees these days are not needed in the first place. Story 21. In my opinion, not good financially and socially. Education for many is still the best avenue for upward class mobility. That is not to say it is the only path, but it has lifted many generations from poverty, including myself. Additionally, higher education can be a powerful social opportunity. It was during my college years that I felt able to come out of my shell. I made a lot of great friends and am marrying my best friend, whom I met in a lab class. Many people in my major ended up dating simply because they were around each other constantly. My fiancé and I were one couple among many. While college was not without its challenges, and there were many, I would definitely do it again personally. Story 22. We look at this as a negative, but there are some positive potential results to consider too, though I agree overall this will be a net negative. For example, college is used by elites to gatekeep people from jobs that do not need a college degree. Look at so many civil service clerk jobs that demand a degree. How many people actually work in the fields they studied? Removing degree requirements would benefit all. We could also see a return to valuing other types of work beyond office work. Part of the reason the union movement declined was because society started to value physical labor far less than mental labor. In an era without spreadsheets or mass literacy, intellectual labor was harder to fill. Now even professional jobs like pilots, architects, and lawyers utilize software tools to reduce the need for the same intellectual ability as before. You can be far less intelligent than previously and still be a good engineer. Have you ever looked at old elementary school math tests from the 1800s? They were much more difficult than when I grew up. We used to filter out more people by necessity. If you couldn't figure out a logarithmic table by hand, you really couldn't be an engineer back then. There is still a huge need for physical labor with shortages in electricians and machinists. If we valued these jobs and paid them like we pay people in human resources, we might be better off. Either way, we have no choice as office jobs are shrinking and technology reduces how many of us are needed to do these tasks. Story 23. I think it is too early to sound the alarms. Underemployment, which means working in a field that does not require a degree or is unrelated to your field, is a very real issue. In the United States, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York regularly reports that around 40% of recent college graduates work in jobs that do not require a college degree. So it really depends on what those men are doing. Technically, 40% of university graduates are in the same situation, just with a large amount of debt. Story 24. Less than you would think. Vital work still needs to be done, and women are not willing to do it, so society will figure out how to make it work. On top of that, college is already a bubble. Men leaving hollows it out faster. Story 25. Hopefully, it is because they are not going to spend money on useless, expensive education. He says with a Master of Business Administration that he never should have gotten. Story 26. Hard to say at this point. It could be nothing, or it could leave us nationally deficient in 10 years in science, research, technology, and so on. I am more concerned with the concerted assault on higher education and education in general. Story 27. Is this in the United Kingdom? I think it is good to see people choosing trades. I was basically told if you do not get into university, you have failed and will end up at McDonald's. That was from a careers advisor. My degree taught me a lot and I refined many skills there, but during my first 2 years I was reckless and barely made it through. I was young and carefree with no clear direction except drinking. I think people should take time off after school. I have worked since then and been quite successful in roles that shared skills with my degree but did not require it. I work in workforce management and development, and if I see a university degree, I do not care what it says, just the skills. If I see someone without a degree but with a good attitude, for me, there is no difference depending on the role. Story 28. It would be interesting to see how many of those not going to university would rather take the blue-collar route instead. Story 29. As long as artificial intelligence does not increase the division between skilled and unskilled workers, it will be fine. Story 30. Everything ebbs and flows. There is a nation full of people who need a government bailout on their student loans because they cannot earn more than $40,000 a year with that advanced education. While that seems to be the case, I would say the smart ones are becoming welders and electricians. Sometime down the road, when trades are oversaturated with applicants, maybe we will need one of those degrees, and perhaps being a social worker will pay better. Story 31. I think it is less about a decrease in enrollment numbers and more about a significant increase in tuition and cost of living. Potentially more young men feel that they can find equivalent options for less personal investment. There are definitely other pathways in life, most of which involve some form of education or specialty training, but I have always been of the opinion that if you want more education, then you should be able to obtain more education. Story 32. There will be even more people advocating for trades as a reasonable path for those who cannot attend college. Story 33. It signals the end of the idea that college can be used to get ahead in life, which implies things are about to become very difficult soon, if they are not already for you. Story 34. My field does not require a college degree. I make plenty of money. It depends on the field they are going into. Story 35. It will become increasingly difficult to find well-paying jobs, but people often blame artificial intelligence or immigrants. The reality is that companies hire H-1B visa workers because the selection of American citizens is limited. The United States has lagged in education, not just university enrollment, for decades, and it is catching up with us. The universities themselves are good, but they are increasingly filled by international students. Story 36. Lying flat of men, retracting contribution and involvement in participating in society, decline of all things that rely on men. There was never any biological rule saying men should go to work, but many non-disabled men would take social benefits as if there was a sudden increase of disabled people. Whether we allow them to actively be parasites of society or not is a different issue. Just imagine the implications of this silent protest. We have seen the strike by various sectors and the halting in social services impact the running of society. The higher-paying jobs are not self-sufficient unless robots replace all men in various jobs. For every high-income earner, many take up jobs such as toilet cleaning, cooking, driving, building, etc., so they can focus on what society delegates them to do in their high-paying jobs. Some can live and be self-sufficient, but certainly not much time is left for anything else when they have to tend to their fields and backyard farms, basically taking on multiple jobs 24/7 all by themselves. If men decide to do this, they can effectively disconnect from society completely, not engaging with social media or other social resources, leaving society devoid of men and essentially building their own individual society. Whether with several mates or by themselves, they form a small social and economic circle, returning to early tribalism. Solar panels, in some ways, are part of this living off-grid, which is not something new. Story 37, with more men doing a cost, reward, and benefit analysis on university compared to skilled training education in the trades, it is a good thing, especially for men. Many men are realizing that going thousands of dollars in debt to the federal government only, to give that borrowed money to often a state university, just to repay the debt with large amounts of interest, only to get a job that often pays less than a plumber, is not worthwhile. The government has a significant financial scheme going there. For the past 20 years, many trades like pipefitters and machinists have had 5 retire for every 2 entering the trade. This is not sustainable, and I am glad more are getting into the trades. I do my own work on my house, but a friend needed to call an electrician to deal with a defective wall outlet and had to wait 2 weeks for someone to get to him. I am glad more are saying no to debt to only get a job making $60,000 a year when a person can drive a truck making that much and never have a Department of Education student loan. Story 38. I think we will look back on the current anti-intellectualism movement among men and consider it mild. Story 39. It will not, considering the fact that the numbers are not decreasing in my country at all. They have gone up. Story 40. Many fields important to society do not require a university degree. Regarding progress, many inventions that advanced human development were made by highly intelligent people without higher education. Increasingly, companies are placing less value on degrees since being able to study well does not necessarily mean one can perform a job effectively. Therefore, I believe this trend will not significantly impact our future. I think fewer university courses will be offered in the future, with only essential ones remaining. This would result in both men and women attending university less. Of course, I could be completely wrong, but it seems the world is moving in that direction. Story 41. Universities will eventually reduce the number of less practical courses and degrees. Theoretical and non-applicable content will gradually disappear. Story 42. With college becoming increasingly expensive, I do not think men or women will attend for much longer, or at least not as they used to. Story 43. Maybe more breakthroughs will occur because, in the last couple of years, we have seen that women's contributions to science and technology were suppressed and falsely dismissed for a long time, assuming women cannot do science. Story 44. Apprenticeships are becoming excellent career starters. Many engineering firms accept students for apprenticeships immediately after school and train them with the knowledge and skills equivalent to those with a degree. There is no student debt, just a well-paying, respectable job right out of school. Story 45. Any decrease regardless of gender is not good, especially when you consider the United States used to attract the globe's best and brightest, and former President Trump has thoroughly damaged that. Story 46. More men have degrees than ever before, but men do not earn as many degrees as women. Many degrees are not worth the price that many schools charge. Story 47. I believe we have an overeducation problem in most developed countries. We need more people in trade occupations. Story 48. I think you will find that people entering the workforce are often more intelligent than those going to a university. There is a difference between being book smart and having common sense and actually doing a trade. Many times, colleges produce graduates who lack common sense but feel superior to others because of their degree, which is almost never the case. I believe there will be a resurgence in practical trades such as electricians, welders, and construction workers. These are skilled jobs that do not require a formal college degree. I wasted 4 years of my life earning an information technology degree and have never needed it, even though I worked in the information technology field. I wish I had known this so I would not have incurred debt from student loans. Story 49. Men will start making more money because they are smart enough to enter the trades instead of pursuing a 6-year communications degree to become an assistant manager at Starbucks. College is a valuable experience if you are specifically seeking a degree in education, 2 different things, required to perform a certain job or work in a particular field well. However, many people pursue college without a clear need for it and would be better off spending their time and money elsewhere. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.